Hey, Janiel Youngblood, how are you today?
Wonderful, thank you.
I want to welcome you to the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy, and I want you to tell the Academy who you are and what you do.
So I am Janiel Youngblood, CPA. I am originally from New Jersey, but I came to Virginia to attend Virginia Union University. There, I studied accounting and really developed a passion for being able to use my accounting skill to help. And at that time, I didn't know what that help was going to look like. But I like to share in my introduction that I served as Miss Virginia Union, and why that is important fact is because when I went to my home church to be recognized as Miss Virginia Union, a minister there told me, "You're going to be the church accountant," and I thought to myself, like, really? Wow. Like, that was an epiphany for me that I can actually use my accounting skill to help churches. And that was a perfect marriage of ministry and my technical skill. I thought ministry was like the people, who sing and preach. Like, that was the real ministry. But what I found is that ministry happens behind the scenes, even in the accounting space. And so that really developed a passion for me to work with churches in the field of accounting, and really just find a way to help churches be better in the things that they do. When I was studying accounting, it was around the time of Enron and WorldCom, all those big corporations that were under scrutiny. And I just began to wonder, like, who is helping the churches make sure that they're getting their money straight? And so I found an opportunity to really serve and marry that passion and technical skill.
So, you're a CPA just like me, and sometimes there's a challenge when it's tax time or people want to do certain things. It's You kind of almost feel guilty because they get disappointed. They're like, I wanted to support you, but how hard is it to take yourself off of the main track of accounting and bookkeeping and tax stuff? I have an answer for that, but I want to hear how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Yalika, because I think part of it is my personality that makes it hard for me because my personality is such that I want to help everybody. I don't like telling people no. So there is a sense of like almost, I won't say guilt, but maybe you can relate. It's like a sense of like, I don't want to say no. I want to help you, but the reality is, I have to stay in my lane. I have to stay with the clients that I work with because I've got a lot of things going on. I do a couple of other business things. I'm a mom. I'm a wife, and so I have to be very targeted about how I spend my time. And when I keep that in focus of prioritizing and setting those boundaries, that makes me feel a
Mhm.
little bit more confident about saying no. It's still hard to say no, but I feel a little bit more confident when I realize if I keep saying yes to all these things, I won't be able to prioritize and do the things that are really important to me, like being the wife and the mother and taking care of the other responsibilities that I have. So, when people
Understood.
call me, even today, just right before this opportunity to talk with you, someone asked me about taxes, and I was like, I can tell you the little bit I know, but I need you to go to a tax specialist. Even though I'm a CPA, I don't even like
Exactly.
doing my own taxes. So you need to talk to a
Thank
tax
you.
specialist. And it gives me, I really feel like it's a great opportunity for me to help someone else, another CPA, because now I can refer them to somebody that I
Yeah.
know is reputable. And I feel like I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not me. And so I'm able to help them by giving them a referral. But it is so easy. When people think you're a CPA, they think that you're like, when you say I'm a doctor, like they're specialists in the medical field. Same thing within the
Exactly.
CPA. There's
There's so
specialists. I
many
have
so
a
many
certain niche.
areas in accounting and so many areas in
Yes,
accounting. And so I would even use this moment to really stress the point to entrepreneurs is that just because your cousin is a CPA or accountant don't mean they're the best people to help you. That people have
yes, exactly.
specialties, that there's tax law. Even within tax, there's tax law for corporations,
Yes,
individual. It's very, very unique.
yes,
And it's not good enough just to say, even I have an accountant.
yeah, yeah,
Guess what? Can we share the secret? I don't like doing my own accounting. I do have my categories are set up,
yeah,
but I rather, do my business coaching thing.
yeah.
So and two, the other thing that's about business that's really stressful for me is that people are making business decisions based on something they said to somebody at church. And they say, oh, yeah, yeah. You can't make decisions based on it just because that person is a CPA. They have to get into the numbers of your business and really it's no blanket
Exactly,
advice for
exactly,
people.
exactly.
It's very dangerous. So I also wanted to talk to you too because you serve churches. So do churches have money to hire people for services?
Absolutely. Churches have
Because
money to do
there might be,
whatever they want to do. They got money to do whatever they want to do. It's about priorities. And so
yeah.
I do work with churches in their budget because I realize that some of them are on slimmer budgets than others. But the reality is they have money and they just need to know where it's important to invest their money. And even with that, I have to be very careful because again, I like to give, I like to serve. I had to seek counsel about not doing it all for free because churches do
Oof,
have money, right? Like I wanted to be like, oh, it's just I want to be a blessing or this is ministry.
serve the
But
Lord.
but let me tell you, if there's no investment on the part of the client, they won't respect the work that you give.
Mm,
And so I was cheating myself out of my worth when I was undercharging and doing things for free. People were wasting my time. And so I began to realize, no, this is a service I've studied for this. I've gone through stress to pass that CPA exam to get them letters behind my name. I've invested in study materials and resources. And so I've invested in myself to be able to serve. It's worth it to the client to be willing to invest in the service because it's going to yield them a better result, whether it means more trust in their donors and the members that come, a trust in their community because they're being good stewards over the resources. So it's worth it for them to invest for financial help.
So I want to take this moment to really talk to other entrepreneurs, mainly who are female, who one of the issues with the church is they're used to the women of the church serving for free. I'm just gonna put that out there and put it there.
Yeah,
But just for other, sometimes just female business owners oftentimes have a hard time charging the correct price and really even demanding or expecting a profit or
yeah,
expecting to prosper. So I think that's really helpful, one for dealing with the churches, but also for entrepreneurs in general.
yeah,
And it takes a lot. Even if you're baking cakes, I need some money for my cake.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't always do it for free. And you can't free your way to profit. And the
Right.
people who you give it to, you and to me, even when I was helping churches more and other clients, and even just in general from dealing with my coaching clients, the people who pay the least treat you the worst.
That is the truth.
They're the most worrisome clients
Yeah.
sometimes. They're the most demanding, and it's just not a good. So learn your worth. I think that's the first lesson of today's talk.
Yeah, and
And not
absolutely, because I think we have the ability to teach people how to treat us, right? So when we're
mm,
telling them, no, it's okay, you don't have to charge, or you don't have to pay that, or we're devaluing ourselves. And so I'm not
yes.
saying that there's not opportunities where you work with somebody or you work with their budget, you meet them where they are. I'm not saying that there's a time and space for that, but generally speaking, I've just learned that I have to at least let them know what the value of this service is so that they understand the investment and what you are. If you choose to sow, then that's between you and God and that client. But you have to understand what the value is. No one's going to ever really be able to pay you all that you're worth. So you have to be
Yes.
willing to accept the value that you're willing to place on the service that you provide. And the value is not just the time that you're spending, it's the things that you're also sacrificing to spend that time. The money that you've
Wow.
invested in training yourself, the money that you put into the materials and resources that you're providing for that client. So there's a bigger cost than just your hourly fee. Think about all the other things that you're sacrificing that really
To
create the
prepare.
value of the service that you're providing.
So speaking of sacrifice, I heard you say you're a mom and a wife. Can you talk to our listeners and watchers about how you balance your life? Is it perfect? Is your laundry all done? I know you're at home, but I don't want you to take the camera around your home. Is everything 100%?
No,
What's going on? Is it sparkling?
girl, no. No, not at all. I wish it was, but I'm living the real life of trying to balance and make it all work. And I realize that sometimes that balance looks like being out of balance. In certain seasons, it might mean I've got to work extra hours and work after the kids have gone to sleep and stay up all night doing things. Sometimes that balance looks like last week I was on spring break and I shut my computer down for a certain amount of time to go and play with the kids. I went out of town, but I brought my laptop with me so I could check a few 2 emails. So I even today I was out at the soccer field and I had my work phone wrapping up a call as I'm walking over to the soccer field. So it looks like balance looks different in different seasons of my life. Laundry doesn't always get done, as quickly as I think it should. The house is not always clean, but I've got 2 kids, so I'm learning to delegate and let them know that mommy needs help. I don't have to do it all. I used to pride myself on trying to be superwoman and get it all done, but that's just not realistic, right? Even when I think about the Proverbs 31 woman, she had help. So if that means I got to
Yes, you
call
did.
somebody to do something for me, leverage my village, it really takes on different forms and different seasons. But I've just come to the realization that I'm not going to be able to get it all done, and that it's okay to say no. Like that, I had to
Yes,
really
it
get to that
is.
that stage of, I have to say no to some things in order to be able to give a quality yes to the things that really matter most.
And I know for me, I had to when my girls were still in the house, get comfortable with the little pile of clothes, and I had to get comfortable with them doing things. So when they fold the towels, my laundry closet was not perfectly aligned, but it was done. So I
Yeah.
had to get
Yeah.
comfortable that it's my hands doesn't have to be on everything.
Yeah.
And on the backside, those 2 girls can clean the house
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they so it's a
Exactly.
training program also.
Right? Yes. Yes. So definitely learning different things to, again, like you said, encourage the kids to be able to be a little bit more independent and for them to understand what it looks like. Like when I was trying to do it all and take everything care of everything myself, I think I was teaching my kids that they're supposed to do it all. And that's just not realistic. That's why we get stressed
Mm.
out and start, seeing physical signs of our body deteriorating because we're carrying too much stress. And I'm like, hold on, time out. I don't want to continue repeating this cycle of overcommitting and doing too much. I also want to teach my kids when it's time to rest. I've incorporated, due to some coaching that I've received, I've incorporated me time. So there are times where I will take a nap in the middle of the day. Sunday
Woo.
afternoon, that's my me time. I incorporate a midday nap and just find little ways to refresh myself so that I'm better when I serve my family and when I serve my clients.
So you think your cup is more full to serve others?
Yes. It's a
Oh,
work in
that's
progress. It's
wonderful.
not perfect yet. I won't claim that it's perfect, but I'm more intentional now about how I devote my time. Some days I get it wrong, but I'm getting it right more than I'm getting it wrong.
And I think that ties back to charging what you're worth. Because if you're not charging enough, and we're not talking about charging $1 million a session,
Right,
but if you're not charging enough, you can't have a day off
right,
or you can't take care and take a vacation.
right.
So you got to find the balance of what you're providing, the service you're providing to support the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, and there's
And
sometimes when there's not enough money to do the work, no matter what they pay you. I have had clients that I have decided that I don't want to work with them anymore because no matter what they paid
mm,
me, it wasn't worth the stress. The money, I've learned that all money is not good money, right?
all
Like
right now.
if you're going to make me more stressed out because you're not listening, you always got stuff messed up, you're trying to fix things or not doing things right. It's like, it's just not worth the headache for me. You need to go with another accountant who has more patience in that area, or whatever the case might be. But not all money is good money. So you don't have to take every client. And when you're charging enough, you can choose who you want to work with. I don't have to work with
Woo.
everybody. I don't have to work with every church. I choose which churches I want to work with who are willing to compensate me so that I don't feel like I'm pinching for penny and have to take every client. I feel like
Exactly.
I'm more empowered to choose because I'm getting paid what I'm worth from the clients that I choose to work with.
So now I have a messy question about the churches. So when I serve churches, I notice that sometimes there are paid staff and but many times they're volunteers who are
Hmm.
not that's not their accounting might not be their background. They're just the
Right.
nicest person who chose to do it or the sister Susie who worked at the bank as a bank teller. So what would you prefer or what would you like to see depending on the size of the church that how are they prepared to receive you or work best with you?
I would prefer that the church was paid an in-house accountant, because there's more accountability there. The person who
Mhm.
volunteered, and no disrespect for anybody listening that's a volunteer at the church, I'm sure you're serving faithfully. But in my experience, sometimes, not always, but sometimes the person who's volunteering will get to it when they get to it. right? I'll get to
Mm.
reconciliations when I get to it, because there's no accountability or no incentive. Not that everybody has to be financially incented, but when there's things that are critical that have to be done at a certain time, it can't be whenever we get to it or when we have free time. I need it to be someone who it's their job and their responsibility to get these things done, to get the reconciliations done monthly, make sure that the payroll taxes are being paid timely. Like, that's their job to do it. And so I think there's
Mhm.
a little bit more weight that comes when this is your expectation because you're getting compensated to do it versus my reasonable service and when I have free time and volunteer my time to do it. There is a difference there.
I agree. I agree. I think that it's a matter of priority, and even as churches grow, they might prioritize getting a bigger building over paying people.
Yeah.
And I think that might even apply to business as well. But the priority has to be to make some stability in your administration.
Absolutely. And it's worth it. You want it done right. And sometimes that compensation can take different forms. Like, I strongly encourage my clients, you need to invest in your staff, even if they're volunteers. You need to invest in your staff to educate them. Give them the resources to be able to do the job well or to do the volunteer project well, because you're educating them. You're investing in the training materials. You're sending them to seminars and places where they can learn the proper way to do things, not just go read this on your free time. No, there's weight and accountability to getting this stuff right. And so we want to make sure that we're structured to prosper in this area as well.
So tell me how you serve. How do we work with you? Is it one on one? Is it a session of classes? How do you work with clients? What are the different ways that they can work with you?
Yeah, so I do a couple of different ways. I really enjoy going into a church and working one on one with them and talk to them specifically about their need. I often am called by the treasurer or the financial secretary, and I like to meet with the board because it's not just enough for me to talk to the treasurer. I need to make sure that the board and the pastor, that they're on board with what we're talking about. In accounting, we call that the tone at the top. I need to make sure that the tone at the top is understanding the responsibility, their accountability, their fiduciary responsibility. So I like to set a precedent with the board of the church and work with them directly on what their needs are, whether that looks like some compliance reviews or writing processes and procedures, whatever that specific agreed upon procedure that I do with them. But I also have been called in to do seminars for groups of churches, like the Baptist General
Mhm.
Convention or the Church Network. There's groups that I've worked with, different denominational groups that will come together and would like to have a group session on something. So I like to do that as well. And then there's some, I do some one-on-one. I don't do many bookkeeping clients, but I do carry a few just to keep my hands in the fire of it and work with them, through some bookkeeping matters one-on-one that way as well.
That is excellent. So, what would you say to an accountant or someone who wants to serve in the church in that way? Where would you tell them to start to figure out how to get their feet wet in there?
Pray, pray, pray,
Become
pray.
a volunteer?
Yeah, I would say pray and make sure that Lord is calling you to that place, because the truth of the matter is it does take a special call and anointing. It is not just a technical skill. When you decide that you want to work with the church in the area of finances, you're going to see some things. Hopefully, you're seeing that all things are great and it's confirming that you're on point. But the reality is, you might see some things that may change your perspective. And you've got to be able to think about the greater good and the cause where we're going to. Maybe not where we are today, but have a process improvement mindset that we're going to get it right. But you really have to have some thick skin, because I also tell my church clients that work in the finance, the treasurer and the financial secretary, if you're doing your job well, you're probably not going to be liked, but you will be respected. Right? If you're doing your job right,
Amen.
that means you're going to have to tell people some no's sometimes when they're coming to tell you they need an emergency check, and you tell them checks are only cut on Tuesdays and Fridays, and they coming to you on Wednesday after Bible study saying we need a check for so and so. Has it gone through the voucher process? Have you gotten the proper approvals? You might have to say no to some things. And so you really have to have a backbone to be able to do that, and be willing to educate yourself. It's not just about having the free time to do it. Make sure that you're guiding or that you have the up-to-date tax laws or best practices on how to operate in that space, because you might have good intentions and you might have the time, but if you don't know what the law requires, you might end up doing more damage than good. So you want to make sure that you're educating yourself to be able to serve in that space, and also that you prayed up for the things you might see.
So I would ask, so because some of this bleeds over into entrepreneurship, because
Absolutely.
the church is a
Yes.
business as far as how it operates. It has vendors, it has a light bill,
Yeah.
and some people don't know the churches pay taxes. They do most pay payroll
Right.
taxes. So can we talk a little bit about some church trouble
Oh,
that you've seen?
yeah.
So don't name
I won't
names. The
name names.
names of these church will be.
Yeah, I won't name names, but some of the trouble that I've seen, I'll think about my top three pet peeves and troubles that I've seen. One is personal use of church funds. And this is where I have seen people think it's okay to swipe the debit or credit card of the church um, to cover personal meal expense. Um, or their personal gas expense because of all the driving that they do for the church. Unless you're recording your mileage of when you went to the church for church business, it's not just a blanket, coverage. So I see some of that mismanagement of cards being used, and I don't think it's done intentionally to be malicious. It's carelessness, right? And so I think sometimes when I see too much swiping of personal, or the other is the insufficient funds because people are swiping and they haven't checked what's the actual balance, not just we thought it was. And so those are some of the pet peeves. But the biggest one, and one of the clients that I'm working with now, it's not preparing for, or I'll say lack of succession planning. I had a pastor
Hmm.
who called me and told me suddenly his accountant was unable to perform her duties. He said, "All I can
Mm.
do is write a check. I don't know the back end. I don't know what happens behind the scenes."
Mm.
There was no succession in place, no plan, no procedures, nothing that someone else could walk in and pick up and continue on. So we think if somebody's been serving that they're going to do it for the next 50 years, but we've got to be in a position that we can successfully bring on the next generation or the next person to do the job, because those accountants or treasurers, financial secretaries, they might get burnt out, and they need to have someone that can step in their shoes and carry on the great work that I hope is being done at the church. We want it to continue on. But if it's all up here in somebody's head and not being written down for someone else to be able to pick up the torch, we're doing ourselves a disservice. Some people feel like if I know it all, I'm invaluable. I'm not replaceable. But you're hurting yourself if you don't write it down so that someone else can pick up. You can't go on vacation. You can't leave. You can't, because no one else knows how to do what you do. And so I feel like
Correct.
it's to the church's benefit to prepare. If nothing else, the pandemic taught us tomorrow is not promised. Okay. So we need to have people stepping in to do those things, having multiple people trained to step in if someone else is not able to perform their duties.
So speak
So
about
those are a
standard
couple.
operating procedures. So you talked about writing things down, and I think this could apply to our business as well as the church. What
Absolutely.
is the importance, especially I would think too, one as a church, but two even as a single business owner who has nothing written down.
Yeah.
Where do you begin the process of writing down the process? How would you even do that?
Yeah.
Just
In very practical terms, this is so simple. I thought about this even as I was doing my first book project. I did talk to text. I talked about
oh.
what I was doing as I did it, right? Of course, you got to go on and edit and all that, but at least that starts it, right? That starts the process of, okay, on this day, I do this. This is how I do it. This is where I go. Talking it out and recording it on a log. And then you test it out by seeing if someone else can perform those same duties like you would do it based on what's written. And that's so just a simple way to get started. Just start with the basic. You're going to uncover more things as you go along. But that's just a basic way to start, and writing down those critical things, the critical deadlines. When are things due? Having a calendar to let somebody know when do we normally pay these taxes, or when do we process payroll? When does it have to be in order for the ACH to clear? Like those little details are critical if you're not able to perform them, and having someone else to do it. For consistency, again, if you got it locked and you're doing a great job in your business or at the church, you want to make sure that there's continuity should you not be able to do it. Can someone else step in and do that task for you?
So I used to ask business owners as well as churches, so what would you do if the $1 million showed up today? What would you do if the 10,000 members showed up today? Could you operate if you may have a t-shirt business, and what if you got 10,000 orders? What would you what structure do you have in place to hire someone to grow? Same thing with the church. What would you do if you got 1,000 checks in the offering plate? Are
Yeah.
you prepared for that?
Yeah.
And
You touched
many
on
times,
something good.
no.
You touched on something good of why it's important to write things down. And I know this is probably right up your alley, Lika, with the automation. You're not able to buy automation or automate anything if there is not first a structure of what you're doing, right? So you got to
Yes,
first write down your process so you know what the automation can do or what it will replace for you. Sometimes people go out here and buy all these fancy software or do all this big purchase of things, but until you know what your own process is or what your needs are, you won't know which software to even get to match your needs.
correct.
So having that process written out or some way documented will help you when you're shopping for that automation or when you're trying to explain to somebody else what your needs are. They're going to ask you about what your process is. And so knowing that will
Exactly.
help you make the right choices. And then you can scale based on the growth because you know how to operate it at $100,000. So then when you get the next 10,000 or, 20, 100 million, whatever that is, when you scale up, you know, okay, this is what we did at this level. To take it to this level, this is what we need, or at least know what questions to ask. For
Correct.
that
And it's
level.
even easier when you're smaller. It's
Right,
easier to do that talk to text thing, step 1, and the automation doesn't tell you when it needs to be
right.
done. This needs to be keyed in run this report at the end of the
Yeah,
day or at the end of the week.
yeah,
That's not the software is not going to tell you that.
right,
QuickBooks or Square or whatever you're using
right,
or Tie the Office, so it's not going to tell you when you need to do it
right.
and who needs to review it to make sure that it's right.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
that is something that I think sometimes in the solopreneur world and also with small churches that might not be a part of an association, in a vacuum, you cannot grow.
Right,
You have to see what other your peers are doing
right.
to get an understanding of what's because the tools are out there,
Yeah,
but you need a process that goes with the tools.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
this has been wonderful. So, I think you might be our church reporter. So, can you come back every now and again? And when we hear, we want to hear some juicy church
Oh
stories.
my
But
goodness.
the names of the churches will be but people need to understand one, I want entrepreneurs to know that churches are clients.
Yeah,
They need janitorial services, they
yeah,
need printing services, whatever the service you so don't block out the churches or don't
yeah,
look look because
yeah.
they do need viable services that are reliable even to serve the kingdom. And as Janelle said, they have some
If they
money,
do
some of
have money, they do. It's just a matter of where they prioritize to spend it. But yeah, definitely. And we want to help in those spaces and help them realize that yes, they're a business about, God's kingdom, but there's still some basic business principles that apply to help them thrive in the kingdom. So yes, all those services are needed.
So, Janelle, thank you so much for coming over to the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy and hanging out with us. She's already a member of the Academy. She's already enrolled in courses for her business. So, she
Yeah.
had to come over and bless us and let us know how we can serve our community and our churches better.
Yeah.
So, thank you. This is the other thing I always do. I almost forgot. So, for so most of my listeners are women of a certain age. We don't even name the age. We just say women. Moms, we've been hanging out. We can probably bake a cake or fry some pork chop for you. But they've been serving in the church, whatever, for free, PTA, whatever. And they're thinking now, I want to start a business.
Mhm.
How do I do? Where would you tell them to start? Where would you tell them to start? Let's say cake baking. Maybe she's a super cake baker of the church. Where would she start?
In order to start her own business as a caterer,
Yes.
uh, I would definitely say, like we've been talking about before, document what makes you different. Okay, think
Hmm.
about your uniqueness. So Yulika and I both are CPAs, but we have uniqueness about us that makes us different. So what sets you apart and really identifying the what you can do, Think about why you do it. What makes you unique? Who do
Mm.
you want to serve? To say, I want to serve everybody, that's too big. You're not going to be able to serve everybody. That's not realistic. So think about, who do you want to serve? What is your avatar? What is your ideal person that you want to serve? And think about that person, have that person in mind, or that group or that audience in mind. And how can you best serve them with your uniqueness? It's really about knowing you and doing that inner work on yourself and what you have to offer of value. Document that, write that down, and then partner with those resources, those collaboration through Plan to Prosper. Don't stress yourself out. I remember Yulika, she helped me when I got started. I was Yulika, I don't know, help me out, get me started, and she pointed me in the right direction. So you're not alone. Leverage the sisterhood. Collaboration is definitely key, but know who you are, know what makes you unique, and make sure you're documenting that process.
Thank you very much, Janelle.
You're
Join us
welcome.
again. We're signing off
Absolutely.
today, but we're going to go. So I'll tell people, okay, get off this podcast and go make some money.
That's
Talk to you
right.
later.